I remember the sound of glass clinking more than the words at first. 100 people packed into that penthouse on the Upper East Side, voices rising with champagne bubbles, candles flickering against mirrored walls. My mother was turning 60, and I had spared no expense. I rented the entire rooftop suite, arranged the catering, even hired a quartet to play old jazz standards she loved. It should have been a night to honor her, a night for family. And then Lydia opened her mouth. Lydia is my brother's wife. She has been part of the family for barely 2 years, but she behaves as though the Wilson name was etched on her birth certificate. She waited until the waiters rolled out the cake, a 3-tiered tower of buttercream with golden roses, to lift her glass. Her red nails shimmered under the chandeliers. You know, she said loudly enough that even the quartet stopped Avery's $1 million condo is basically ours. Family money means family rules. The room erupted. Some laughed nervously, others laughed cruelly. I saw 2 of my cousins raise their phones, recording the moment, as though it were the highlight of the night. I stood there with the ring of my keys pressed against my palm. That condo was mine, my name. On the deed, my blood and sweat poured into every mortgage payment. I had nearly finished paying it off, a place carved out of years of long hours at the firm. And here was Lydia dismissing it with a smirk, reducing it to family property. I smiled, but it was the sort of smile one wears to funerals, tight, empty, and utterly still. The humiliation settled over me like a heavy coat. Not one person at the table spoke up. My parents looked down at their plates. My brother chuckled his arm snug around Lydia's waist. I might as well have been invisible. That is the moment the betrayal began. I live alone. Most days the condo is quiet, too quiet sometimes. The only sounds are the low hum of the refrigerator and the city's traffic beyond the glass windows. On my desk lies a folder with the mortgage papers stamped with the notary's seal. That folder is my shield proof of every sacrifice, every hour I spent calculating risk at the firm while my friends were out living lighter lives. Yet in that penthouse, none of it mattered. They laughed as if the property were a toy, as if my effort were a family joke. I pretended to sip my champagne, though it tasted bitter. The party carried on. They sang to my mother, candles flickered and cameras flashed. All the while I played my part, clapping, smiling, keeping the bitterness pressed down like a secret note under a heavy book. But here is the truth. Families and money are like oil and fire. They do not mix without burning. Lydia's words that night were not a slip of the tongue. They were a claim, a warning of battles to come. I will explain in a moment. For now, I want you to think about something. If a relative raised a glass in a crowded room and told the world your home was theirs, what would you do? Would you laugh it off? Would you argue? Or would you, like me, remain silent and let the silence harden into something sharper? Tell me where you are watching from and hit subscribe. We need to talk about families and money. I grew up in a house where the phrase "family helps family" was stitched into throw pillows and repeated at Sunday dinners like grace. Back then, it meant rides to school and casseroles when someone caught the flu. Somewhere along the way, the words bent. They turned into a crowbar. People used to pry open other people's doors. The Monday after my mother's party, I laid my keys on the marble counter and lined them like a small Army mailbox building unit storage locker bike room. Each one meant responsibility. Each one had my name threaded through it. The deed sat in its folder beside a mug of coffee, gone cold, the notary stamp pressed into one corner like a thumbprint. I checked the amortization schedule the way other people check their horoscopes. The math was clean: principal, paid down, interest shrinking. 1 more year and the condo would be mine, in full, no bank shadow left in the hallways. Almost $1 million in value, nearly all of it earned the slow, unglamorous way. My phone lit up. A family group chat pinged. Balloons and confetti from cousins. Photos of my mother grinning behind the cake. Then a new message from Lydia. Such a perfect night. We should start moving a few things into Avery's place before the holidays. It will make family gatherings easier. She used a winking emoji. I will not repeat it. My brother followed with practical idea. We can take the second bedroom first. Short term. He loved that phrase, short term, the way gamblers love the phrase streak of luck. I typed and deleted 3 times. Finally, I put the phone face down on the folder. Silence is a tool, but it is also a test. When you say nothing, you learn who hears you anyway. By noon, my father called. His voice had that gentle preacher rhythm he uses when he wants something. "You know your mother's knees make the stairs at our house tough," he said. "The elevator in your building would be a blessing for weekend dinners. Think of it as Sharing. Sharing, I repeated, staring at the deed. Paper is patient, but so am I. Dad, I financed every inch of this floor. I carried it through long nights and bad markets. Sharing is not another word for surrender. He coughed. He always coughs when a conversation turns from soft to steel. No one is asking you to surrender. We're talking family logistics. But what they did not know, I said to the still room after the call ended, was that I do not confuse logistics with law. I set the phone on record and walked myself through the documents page by page. Title in my name, and only my name. Mortgage in my name. Taxes paid from my account. The condo board bylaws stacked in a slim binder. I ran my finger down the section about guests and occupancy. The sentences were dry as sand, but within them lay a line I could use later. I took a photo of it and emailed it to myself with the subject. This part matters. That evening I visited my parents' house with a box of pastries. I did not go to fight. I went to watch and to listen. The old oak table still bore the scratches from our teenage years. My mother's hand still found mine across it. Lydia and my brother were already there. They had brought a glossy binder with color tabs. "Look," Lydia said brightly, flipping it open. I mocked up a calendar for shared use. Holidays, Sundays, some Thursdays for our small group. We can contribute to utilities. We are not moochers. She smiled as if generosity radiated from her like heat. And Avery, you can keep your room, of course. My room. In my home, I studied the binder. She had labeled my second bedroom family suite. The words were printed in a cheerful font, the kind realtors use when they want to smuggle pressure under pastel colors. Family helps family, my mother said softly, as if the phrase itself were a lullaby that could ease us into agreement. I placed my pastries on the table and opened my own folder. Mortgage receipts stacked like a paper spine. Condo board bylaws printed and highlighted. I did not spread them out, not yet. I simply set the folder down, a quiet wait. Here is my position, I said. My home is not a community center. It is not a timeshare. It is not ours because you think I am convenient. I love you. I will host dinners. I will send a car when knees hurt and weather turns bad. But no one moves in. Not short term. Not at all. My brother leaned back and laced his fingers behind his head. You are overreacting. It is just space. Space does not care who uses it. That is the chorus of people who never had to buy their own space. Lydia closed the binder with a clap. Then sign this at least, she said, sliding a single page from the back. Just says we can receive packages there and a spare fob for emergencies. She had written it in plain English, no legalese. Casual traps are the most effective ones. I did not touch the paper. Who drafted this? Me, she said. I did a year of business law before switching majors. I smiled the funeral smile again. Business law is not property law. I looked at my father. Dad, if a man came to your door and asked for a key to your bedroom, would you say yes, because he brought a pie? He looked down. That is not fair, he murmured. No, I said. It is not. I took the single page, folded it twice, and slid it back into Lydia's binder. No keys, no packages, no fobs. Her jaw tightened. You think you are better than the rest of us because you make more money. Money. There it was finally bare. The room turned colder. My mother fussed with the napkins smoothing creases that were not there. Here is what I think, I said. I think work should count for something. I think a deed should mean what it says. I think love without respect is not love at all. My brother laughed, but there was no humor in it. You cannot eat respect, he said. You cannot sit on it or hang a coat on it. You can live inside it, I said. We ate in a silence so careful, it made the silverware sound loud. I boxed leftovers and kissed my mother's cheek, her skin cool and soft as always. At the door, Lydia tapped her phone, and I saw the recording light. Little red dot. The digital age gives everyone a stage. The cruel use it as a scaffold. Boundaries are trendy now, she chirped. Maybe you can do a podcast, Avery. Call it Keys I Will Not Share. Her laughter chased me to the elevator. Back home, I set the pastries on my counter untouched and opened my laptop. I archived the family thread. I muted their notifications. Then I saw the email. Not to me. To her friend, the one who sells luxury skincare on social media. Subject line, moving up. I should not have seen it. I will not explain how it reached me. The internet has a way of drifting private things into public harbors when the wind is wrong. Inside, Lydia had written, "Soon we will own half of Avery's place. Free luxury living, manifesting is real." There were screenshots attached to the calendar. She showed me a photo of my building lobby, my name blurred with a sloppy brush. My hands went still. Betrayal is not always a scream. Sometimes it is a soft hinge turning a door closing behind you that you did not realize was open. I printed the email. I slid it into my folder behind the deed, a leaf pressed between pages for later. Evidence is a kind of patience you can hold in your hands. But what they did not know was that condos have rules and cities have laws, and I have time. I turned off the kitchen light and stood at the window, the city glittering like a field of broken glass. In the reflection, I could see my keys on the counter and the folder beside them. Between those two small objects lies a line I will not let anyone cross. "I will host," I said to the dark pane, "but I will not be harvested." Tomorrow I would call someone who knows how to turn paper into boundaries you can see. But tonight I slept with the folder under my pillow, like a child with a treasure map, dreaming of locks that clicked and stayed clicked. It was a Tuesday morning when the email came in. My coffee was still too hot to drink, steam curling up in lazy ribbons as I set the mug on the coaster. On the desk sat my folder of property papers, the deed with its embossed notary stamp, proof that my condo was mine and mine alone. The sender's name froze me, my mother. We hadn't exchanged a single word in over 3 years. Yet here she was, subject line written in all caps, family urgent. I opened it. "Avery, you need to come home. This is a matter of life and death." My pulse quickened. Life and death. For a split second, I thought something had happened to my father, or maybe my brother. Despite the humiliation at the birthday party, despite the years of silence, I am not made of stone. I typed back only 3 words, "I'll be there." When Saturday arrived, the air carried that sharp chill New York has in late autumn when the leaves are gone, but winter hasn't fully committed. I carried the folder of deeds in my bag like armor. Their house looked the same as always, white shutters, the porch light crooked, a cracked driveway that had never been fixed. Inside, the smell of roast chicken hit me first, though no one offered me a plate. Lydia was there, of course. She lounged at the head of the table, as though she owned the place, swirling a glass of red wine. My brother sat beside her, silent, almost embarrassed, but not enough to intervene. My parents looked tired but not dying, not in the way the email had suggested. Then Lydia leaned forward, lips red as blood. "You know," she said, "it's time you put family first. Sell your condo, Avery. The money can cover our debts." The words crashed into me harder than any insult at that birthday toast. This wasn't about life or death, it was about money. Always money. I sat very still, fingers brushing the edge of the folder inside my bag. If I opened it, I could pull out the deed, slap it on the table, and end the conversation in one gesture. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I listened. I let them speak of debts, of responsibility, of loyalty. My father muttered something about shared sacrifice. My mother sighed about family reputation. My brother kept his eyes on his plate. Lydia smiled, daring me to fight. But what they didn't know was that I had already made plans. Plans that would turn their arrogance into ashes. I'll explain in a moment. Tell me where you're watching from, and subscribe, because this story is only just beginning. I did not need to dig long before I found it. Arrogance always leaves crumbs. The following Thursday, while the city pulsed outside my window, my phone pinged with a forward. Someone, an acquaintance of Lydia's, who had grown tired of her bragging, sent me a screenshot of an email. The subject line read, "Upgrade coming soon." The message was simple and cruel. "Soon we'll own half of Avery's condo. Free luxury living. Manifesting really works." Attached were 2 images, a photo of my lobby, my name blurred out in lazy strokes, and the mock-up calendar Lydia had shown me at my parents' house. Family suite scrawled across what was my second bedroom. I printed it immediately. The paper slid warm from the machine black ink, sharp against the white. I tucked it behind the deed in my folder, a leaf pressed inside a book. Proof. Not whispers, not innuendo. Proof. That night, I went for a walk to clear my head. The sidewalks gleamed with rain neon lights smeared into streaks of pink and green across the puddles. Every window I passed reflected someone else's life. A couple eating noodles from cartons, a man ironing a shirt, a child spinning in pajamas. Each scene was private, intact, untouched. My own home, however, had become a target. My blood relative, my brother had allowed it. His wife had orchestrated it. My parents had excused it. Betrayal is one thing when it comes from strangers. When it comes from your own table, it scalds deeper. I remembered the birthday party, the laughter, the way everyone's phones rose like a flock of black wings to catch my humiliation. That clip had floated across TikTok with captions like, "When family claims your $1 million condo, strangers found it hilarious." They did not know what it cost me to stay silent, hands clasped around my keys as if they could anchor me. When I got back upstairs, I laid everything out on the dining table: deed mortgage receipts, condo board bylaws, and now the email printout. The folder had grown heavier like a weapon assembling itself. And then, another ping. This time not from a friend. From Lydia herself, a new group chat me, my brother Lydia, and my parents. The message read, "Hey everyone, just wanted to say how excited we are about moving forward with the family suite. Avery, please sign the attached so we can order duplicate keys." There it was, naked in its brazenness, a PDF asking me to acknowledge shared occupancy rights. No lawyer's header, no official formatting, just Lydia's amateur attempt at binding paper into power. I did not reply. I saved it, printed it, and slipped it into the folder. But what they didn't know was that silence can be louder than any reply. Silence forces people to reveal themselves, to fill the gap with more recklessness. And they did. The very next day, Lydia posted a photo on her Instagram story. It showed her children sitting on a couch, not theirs but mine. She had been inside my condo. The caption read, "Future home vibes. Manifest and it's yours." My pulse hammered in my ears. I zoomed in. There was no mistaking the coffee table, the lamp, the throw blanket I had bought after a hard bonus season. My sanctuary had been breached. I walked to the table, pressed my palm flat against the folder, and whispered to no one, "This part matters." The time for waiting was ending. Silence has a shelf life. Eventually it sours, and when it does, you either swallow it or spit it back. I had swallowed for too long. The day after I saw that Instagram post of Lydia's children on my couch, I called a lawyer. His office smelled of old leather and printer ink. His desk bore the weight of other people's betrayals, neatly bound in folders. I placed mine beside his coffee mug. The notary stamp caught the morning light. He flipped through each page, the deed, the mortgage receipts, the condo bylaws, the emails, the screenshots. He did not rush. Finally, he looked at me. "Your position is clean," he said. "They have no legal claim. But you need to be careful. They're trying to bait you into a mistake. If you react rashly, they'll use it against you." I nodded. My throat was tight, but not with fear. With fury. "Then what do?" I asked. "You prepare," he said simply. "And you wait for the right room." That evening, my father called again. His voice was tired, worn thin like the sleeves of his old sweaters. "Avery," he said, "sign the mortgage addendum. Family first. You're making this harder than it needs to be." Addendum. That was Lydia's word in his mouth. I looked out the window at the skyline, the glass towers shining like teeth. "Dad," I said quietly, "family first should never mean Avery last." He sighed. "You'll understand when you're older. I am 29 with nearly $1 million in equity under my name." I understood more than he knew. Later that week, a cousin sent me a TikTok link. The video had already racked up thousands of views. There was Lydia laughing with a wine glass in hand, gesturing to my condo lobby. The caption read, "Manifesting our dream upgrade. Family perks are the best perks." The comments were merciless. Some applauded her audacity, others called her a leech. My name was blurred in the footage, but not well enough. A few strangers had already tagged me. I felt heat rise in my chest, not shame, not fear, but something steadier. Clarity. Viral humiliation is gasoline. If you know what you are doing, you can set it back on the ones who lit the match. I began preparing my stage. I collected more screenshots, timestamps, copies of posts before they were deleted. I backed everything up in cloud storage. The folder grew thick. Its spine bulged like a book swollen with rain. And then came the invitation. My nephew's graduation. A large family gathering at a banquet hall uptown. Everyone would be there: parents, cousins, friends, in-laws. The perfect stage. IRSVP. Yes. The night before the graduation, I sat alone in my condo. I spread the documents across the table. Deed, emails, screenshots. Lydia's smiling face frozen mid-laugh on her viral TikTok. But what they didn't know was that I had prepared not just for defense, but for spectacle. I slid the papers back into the folder, closed it, and placed the notary stamp on top. The stamp caught the lamplight like a coin of judgment. "This part matters," I whispered. Tomorrow they would learn that silence had never meant surrender. Graduation days are supposed to be about promise, about young faces stepping into the light while proud families cheer. That was the cover story of the banquet hall that Saturday. Rows of tables draped in white linen balloons bobbing near the ceiling cameras, flashing as my nephew crossed the stage in his navy cap and gown. I clapped, of course. My love for him was genuine. He had done nothing to deserve the storm gathering outside his awareness, but storms do not wait for permission, and mine was already rumbling. The dinner began after the diplomas were handed out. Platters of roasted chicken and bowls of pasta were carried across the room. The hall filled with chatter and laughter, the familiar rise and fall of voices that had always carried an undercurrent of judgment. Lydia sparkled at the center of it all. Her dress sequined her smile wide. She held court with stories about our condo, dropping hints, as though she were already on the deed. Each word pricked like a thorn. When the projector screen lowered for the graduation slideshow, I asked the AV attendant for 2 minutes at the end. He shrugged. Family requests were common. What he didn't know was that I had brought my own USB drive neatly labeled and loaded. The slideshow ended baby pictures, school photos, the walk across the stage. Applause filled the room. Then my slides began. First image, Lydia's email. "Soon we'll own half of Avery's condo." Free luxury living gasps scattered across the tables. Second image, the mock-up calendar family suite stamped across my second bedroom in bubble letters. A murmur ran through the crowd, voices colliding. Third image, the Instagram post of her children on my couch. The caption, "Future home vibes. Manifest and it's yours." The room fell silent. You could hear forks clink against plates. Lydia's face drained of color, then flushed deep red. I rose from my seat, folder in hand. I walked to the podium, my footsteps loud in the hush. "This," I said, holding up the deed with the notary stamp, "is my condo. Mine alone. Paid with my work, my hours, my blood. It is not family property. It is not shared. It is not negotiable." I laid the deed flat on the podium, the stamp glinting under the lights. "Anyone who enters without my permission will be trespassing, and the police will handle trespassers." There was a sharp inhale from somewhere in the crowd. My brother shifted uncomfortably. My parents looked down at their plates. Lydia stood frozen, her sequin dress, catching the projector light like broken glass. And then the murmurs began again, this time, not against me, but against her. Words like shameful and audacity floated through the air. Someone in the back began recording. Phones rose like a field of black mirrors. Viral humiliation served piping hot. I closed the folder with a decisive snap. Families, I said, are supposed to protect each other, not plunder each other. And then I walked back to my seat. My food was cold, but victory is best eaten colder still. But what they didn't know was that this was only the first strike. I had one more move, something final, something they could not erase with excuses or charm. I will tell you that part later. The banquet hall emptied in stuttering waves after my speech. Some relatives hurried past without meeting my eyes. Others paused to squeeze my hand. They whispered things like "good for you," and I never knew confessions offered only once the tide had turned. People are brave when the verdict is clear. Lydia tried to recover. She clung to my brother's arm, laughing too loudly, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. But every phone in that room had captured her email, her calendar, her boast. By the time dessert was served, the clip was already climbing through group chats and neighborhood forums. Viral shame travels faster than any limousine. My brother cornered me near the coat check. His tie was crooked, eyes red. He looked like a man who had woken in the wrong story. "You humiliated us," he said, voice low. "I revealed the truth," I answered. Humiliation arrived on its own feet. He opened his mouth, then shut it. Words require footing. Lies had stolen his. He followed Lydia out the glass doors, her heels clicking like hail across the pavement. The next morning, my email pinged with condo board updates. Someone had attempted to request additional fobs for my unit. The building manager flagged it as suspicious and copied me. I replied with the video from the banquet hall. The manager thanked me and added a security note to my file. "No keys issued without owner present. Simple. Final." I poured coffee and scrolled through social media. Lydia's TikTok account had disappeared overnight, replaced by apology posts on her Instagram. Comments piled underneath strangers lecturing her on entitlement, old friends expressing shock, a few defenders telling her to stay strong. Public opinion is a seesaw. Yesterday she was gilded, today she hung in the air, feet kicking at nothing. My parents called just after noon. I let the phone ring twice before answering. My mother spoke first. Avery, we did not realize how far things had gone. We are sorry. The pause after the word sorry was long enough to build a small fence. I accept the apology, I said, but apology is not repair. Boundaries remain. She sighed, a frail sound, like curtains settling after a storm. Will you still come for Sunday dinner? I will, I said. Dinner, not negotiation. Sunday arrived gray and blustery. I drove to their house with lemon tart from a French bakery, the same tart Lydia had once mocked as an indulgence. Petty perhaps, but symbolism has its comforts. Inside, the mood was subdued. My father offered to hang my coat, a courtesy long forgotten. My brother and Lydia were absent. A single-place setting removed from the table told that story. My mother served roast chicken, hands shaking slightly as she passed the platter. Conversation tiptoed around weather, traffic, my nephew's college plans, safe topics that left no bruises. Halfway through the meal, my father cleared his throat. We have decided not to pursue any arrangement regarding your home. It was a mistake. He looked at me, eyes steady. Family helps family, but that does not mean taking what is not ours. That sentence, simple as bread, tasted like atonement. I nodded. Thank you. Lydia, I learned, had lost a consultancy contract the day after the banquet. The client cited brand concerns. My brother, caught between loyalty and disillusion, had moved back into my parents' spare room while he sorted things out. Actions have costs. Theirs were coming due with interest. I did not gloat. Victory without grace rots quickly. Instead, I helped clear the dishes, storing leftovers in neat containers. As I washed plates, my mother touched my shoulder. You were right to protect what you built, she said softly. I forgot how hard you worked. I wanted to tell her every hour I had traded for mortgage payments, every late night, staring at spreadsheets, every anxious morning, waiting for quarterly bonuses to post. Instead, I simply said, thank you for seeing it now. Recognition, even late, is a gentler gift than silence. Back home that evening, I unlocked the door, my door, and stepped into the quiet. The condo smelled of oak floors and clean linens, a scent that whispered safety. I set the empty tart box on the counter and walked room to room, touching the back of a chair here, straightening a picture frame there, like a captain checking her decks after a storm, ensuring every plank still held. I sat by the window with a glass of tea and watched the city lights flicker on. Somewhere out there, Lydia was recalibrating her narrative. My brother was nursing bruised pride. My parents were counting lessons learned too late. But inside these walls, the line I drew remained bright and unbroken. Yet one task stayed unfinished. I opened my laptop and drafted a short listing with a reputable real estate agency, 3-bedroom condo, city view, nearly $1 million in equity, owner relocating. I hit send. Because what they still did not know was that I was already looking west toward fresh streets, new keys, empty pages. Sometimes the surest way to keep what is yours is to let it go before anyone else can claim it. I closed the laptop and breathed easier, as if the walls themselves had widened. There would be paperwork packing final walks through echoing rooms. But tonight there was only peace, the kind that arrives when a door is shut, locked, and honored. If you think choosing distance is weakness, wait until you feel its strength. I will tell you about that in the next chapter. The listing went live on a Wednesday at dawn. By mid-afternoon, I had 3 offers, all above asking. The market was hungry. Apartments with steady views and steady books always sell themselves. I chose the couple who wrote a letter about raising their first child in a place made by honest work. Their sincerity tasted clean. The closing date was set for 6 weeks out. That gave me time to find my own next chapter. I flew west on a cheap red-eye, landed in Oregon just as mist lifted off the Willamette River, and toured a cedar-clad house at the edge of wine country. 2 acres, 1 level, no shared walls, no doormen to bribe, no elevators to ride. The back porch open to pin-drop silence, broken only by wind in the firs. I walked the rooms barefoot, listening to the hush. It sounded like rest. An hour later, I signed an offer. The down payment came from my condo's earnest money deposit. The rest would clear after closing in New York. Paperwork, wiring, signatures, these things no longer frightened me. They were merely doors, and I had learned how to turn a lock. Back in the city, I packed with method. Books into wine boxes, clothes into suitcases, memories into folders. Each evening, I set aside one item for donation. A couch my brother had once spilled red wine on. Gone. The lamp Lydia mocked as too minimalist. Gone. With every object removed, the condo sounded more hollow, like a shell finished with its pearl. 3 weeks before closing, I hosted one last dinner. Not family, colleagues, neighbors, friends who had carried groceries with me during snowstorms. We ate takeout Thai on paper plates and toasted with ginger ale. I handed each of them a new address card printed on cream stock. On the back I wrote, "Come when the vines bloom, there will be room." The final move for my family required a softer touch. I wrote a short letter on heavy stationery. Dear all, the condo is sold. I am moving west at month's end. Enclosed are digital copies of Lydia's emails and posts. Keep them if you must, delete them if you wish. They are no longer my burden. As a departing gift, I have arranged a 6-month lease on a furnished 2-bedroom apartment near my parents' home paid in advance. After that, responsibility returns to its rightful owners. Avery. I attached a flash drive that held every screenshot, every video, every timestamp. Evidence now gift-wrapped. Then I placed one more item inside the mock-up calendar Lydia made family suite circled in pink. I folded it small enough to fit in a plain envelope marked keys to nowhere. I mailed the package with tracking and never looked back. Lydia's reaction traveled to me through cousin gossip. She posted a vague lament about haters and jealous relatives deleted it, then tried again with a quote about forgiveness. The internet was less forgiving. Screenshots last longer than apologies. Clients stepped away, her influencer ventures dimmed. My brother bruised, but breathing took a job, 2 states over a fresh start without sequins. My parents began therapy, or so the cousin said. I hoped it was true. Healing, like boundaries, is quieter than drama, but twice as hard. Closing day arrived. I met the buyers in a conference room high above Park Avenue. Papers slid, pens scratched, checks exchanged. When it was done, the lawyer pushed a small velvet box toward me. Inside lay a single brass key, the ceremonial duplicate the building gives at final turnover. Keep it, he said. A memento. I closed the lid. No, I said. Some keys belong to nowhere. I left it on the table and walked out lighter than I had been in years. That night, I slept on an air mattress in an empty living room, the skyline blinking farewell through bare windows. At dawn, I rolled the mattress, lifted my suitcase, and locked the door one last time. The click echoed down the hallway like punctuation, a period, not a comma. The train to the airport rumbled beneath the river. I watched the city recede through scratched glass streets folding into distance. My phone buzzed with one new message from my mother. Safe travels. We're proud of you. Gratitude late but real. I typed back, thank you. Take care of each other. Doors can close. Hearts don't have to. I slipped the phone into my coat and breathed the stale car air as though it were mountain wind. Ahead lay cedars, soil silence, and a house whose only claim would be my name, etched clear, defended once, and I trusted forever. If you believe in the power of walking away, tell me where you're listening from and remember to subscribe. The final chapter is still to come. The first morning in Oregon, I woke to silence so complete I thought the world had switched itself off. No horns, no elevator cables, no neighbor's television through sheetrock. Just wind-teasing pine needles and one insistent jay rehearsing its raspy solo. I lay there beneath a quilt that smelled faintly of cedar, letting daylight seep across the ceiling until the restlessness New York had stapled inside me began to untwist. The movers were due at noon, but the house already belonged to me in the oldest sense I had slept under its roof without fear. I padded barefoot to the kitchen wide windows, slate counters a kettle, still bright from the factory. While water heated, I opened the back door. Fog hovered over rows of Pinot Noir vines thin as lace. A lone deer lifted its head, considered me, and decided I was nothing urgent. That felt like a blessing. I carried my mug to the porch and sat on the top step. The steam curled against the cold painting brief ghosts that vanished before they learned regret. Somewhere behind me, inside boxes, yet to be unpacked, lay the folder deed to this place, final wire confirmations from New York, a notarized statement severing all prior addresses. I would file the papers later. Today they could rest. Mid-morning, my phone buzzed a new video link from a colleague back east. The banquet hall clip had crossed 1 million views overnight, tagged under family boundaries, financial revenge, know your worth. I watched a few seconds, my own face calm at the podium, Lydia's eyes wide as floodlights. The comment section, brutal and devotional in equal measure, debated property rights, sibling loyalty, the etiquette of public shame. I closed the app. Opinions like pigeons gather where crumbs are thrown. I had no more crumbs to offer. Instead, I texted my nephew, "Come visit this summer. We'll hike the gorge and drink root beer floats on the deck." He replied with a string of exclamation points and a photo of his graduation cap hanging on his bedroom wall. One heart unbruised, worth every upheaval. The moving truck arrived promptly. 2 workers unloaded sofas, books, a dining table that had never known raised voices. I directed them gently, room by room, until cardboard towers sprouted in tidy grids. When they left, I tipped generously and locked the door behind them, savoring the metallic click. A lock means nothing until someone tries to turn it. Still, the sound was sweet. I spent the afternoon unpacking the kitchen. Plates on open shelves, skillets nested like quiet armor jars of lentils, marching into orderly rows. With each placement, the house felt less like a purchase and more like a promise that work can build safety, that safety can breed kindness, that kindness can outgrow fear. By dusk, I was hungry. I grilled a cheese sandwich, poured a glass of local Pinot, and carried both to the porch. Sunset here is not a showman. It slips away politely, brushing treetops with copper before surrendering to indigo. Bats flickered against the dimming sky, stitching invisible seams. I thought about keys, the brass ones I left on a lawyer's table, the smart fobs, denied to Lydia, the new set now heavy in my pocket. Keys are small, but they are votes yes to this space, no to intrusion. Older civilizations marked boundaries with stones. Our century prefers metal teeth. Either way, lines matter. And when they are crossed, the cost is paid in trust. Behind that reflection waited a quieter truth. My family was not villain or victim, only human. They had grown soft where I had grown sharp. Their hands opened when mine closed around a ledger. I would visit, send gifts, answer calls, but from a distance measured not in miles but in clarity. Love stretches farther when it is not asked to carry resentment on its back. Moonlight found the porch. I lifted my glass. To fresh acreage, I said, and to doors well closed. The wind answered by sliding through the pines, and amen whispered in green syllables. Tomorrow I would hang pictures, drive into town for groceries, learn the names of neighbors, and which bakery made the flakiest croissants. Next month the vines would bud, next harvest friends would gather. Life like a vine seeks trellis, and Sunday I had given it both. Before turning in, I opened my laptop and recorded a final message for the channel. My voice sounded calm, older than its years, but without the brittle edge I once mistook for strength. If you believe Avery made the right choice, comment right below. If you know a better way to protect peace without burning bridges, share your idea. Someone reading may need your wisdom tonight. And wherever you are listening from, may your walls be sturdy, your heart unlocked to those who knock with respect, and your silence never confused for surrender. I hit upload, closed the lid, and turned off the porch light. Inside the house held its breath, a new companion waiting to learn my footsteps. I set the last unpacked box beside the fireplace, labeled "Folder Keep," not to clutch, only to remember. Some histories must stay visible, so we do not write them twice. Keys on the mantel, future, a head knight's quilt, settling over cedar beams. I climbed the stairs each creak, declaring ownership. In the dark of my new bedroom, I whispered gratitude to the rafters and to my own stubborn spine. Then I slept undisturbed, while the world turned quietly outside. S.